Hello, dear students and viewers. Welcome to the official YouTube channel of Sanjeevani Mahavidyalaya Chapoli, affiliated to Swami Ramananda Tirth, Marathwada University, Nanded, BSc second year and BSc third year. Subject Botany, Plant Physiology paper. In previous video lecture, we discussed on the topic ascent of sap and different theories put forth by different scientists. One of the important theory that we are going to discuss here, transpiration pull theory in plant water transport. This theory is also known as cohesion tension theory, transpiration pull theory or cohesion tension theory, and that theory was put forth by Dixon and Joly in 1894, and that theory was supported by Rayner, Curtis and de Klerk. This theory is based on number of features. You in previous lectures discuss or seen the physical and chemical properties of water. Water is a vital for the plant because the water has a unique properties, physical and chemical properties, and that properties are helpful in different procedures that are carried out in the plant. Cohesion tension theory or in transpiration pull theory, the some of the important properties that are useful in transport of water in the plant. Cohesion and adhesion. The cohesion property of water and adhesion property of water. What is cohesion? The cohesion is mutual attraction between water molecules or any molecules. The mutual attraction between same molecules is known as cohesion, and the force created here, that is known as cohesion force, and the value of that cohesion force is 350 atmosphere. Water molecule has affinity to each other. That affinity of water molecule is known as cohesion, and the force is here created is known as cohesion force, and that cohesion force is 350 atmosphere, and that 350 atmosphere cohesion force is enough to lift the water from root to top of the plant. The water transported through xylem vessels. The xylem, components of xylem, one of the important component of the xylem is tracheids and vessels. The xylem is made up of from tracheids and vessels. The wall of the tracheids and vessels are made up of from cellulose. You know that the wall of the tracheids and vessels are made up of from cellulose, and that cellulose is a hydrophilic compound. Cellulose is hydrophilic compounds or have the high affinity towards the water. That affinity towards the water. Because of that affinity, the water adhere on the surface of tracheids or vessels, or on cellulosic part of the cellulosic surface of the vessels and tracheids. That adhesion of water, that is, water is adsorbed on the surface of cellulose, that is a adhesion of water. Xylem has perforated walls or perforated end walls, and that xylem with perforated end walls form a tube-like structure or tubular structure from root to tip. A column of xylem is formed from root to tip. In between the xylem, the perforated plates are found. So you see in the structure of vessels, and in that structure of vessels you find out that pitted plates. That pitted plates form a tubular structure. That tubular structure of xylem provides a continuous channel for the movement of water. Pipe-like structure is formed. The xylem form a pipe-like structure from root to tip of the plant, and that pipe-like structure is helpful in continuous movement of water. That water cannot always pulled, हे सतत pulled out केलं जात नाही from xylem, because the cohesive and adhesive properties of the water, because of the cohesive and adhesive properties of the water. For lifting water from the root to the tip, there is a certain force is necessary, and that force is created by the process transpiration, the evaporation of water from the leaf, that is known as transpiration. And because of that transpiration, the transpiration pull is developed, and because of the transpiration pull, the water is lift upward direction, that is known as transpiration pull. And that transpiration pull is responsible for the movement of water column in upward direction. That is the cohesion and adhesion theory or transpiration pull theory. Take one of the important example, that daily life, routine life. You seen when you drink the cold drinks by using the straw, you suck the cold drinks on tip of the straw, and you find out the cold drinks that are in the bottle here moves upward direction. The same way the transpiration pull is carried out, the upward movement of water molecules or water in the plant body. Certain objections that are raised by certain scientists on this transpiration pull theory. That objections are, one of the major objection is the formation of embolism, and formation of embolism and cavitism. What is embolism and what is cavitism? The air bubbles that are formed in the water column, that is known as embolism. When drought or in shortage of water, the air bubbles are formed in the water column, but Dixon and Joly explained that repair of embolism or repair of cavitism is carried out because the water column is continuous with the help of interconnection between longitudinal vessels that are present in the xylem, and that objection is overruled. Septa in xylem vessels may check the flow of water, but the suction force or negative tension developed by transpiration pool is sufficient to overcome resistance developed by septa. That is one of the objections is overruled. Experiment to demonstrate cohesion tension theory. A young transpiring twig is fixed to a glass tube filled with water. Take a transpiring twig and feel that transpiring twig is fixed in the glass tube containing water. The lower end of the tube is kept dipping in the dish containing mercury. Lower end is dip in the mercury. As transpiration occurs in the twig, the level of mercury rises in the tube due to suction force created, and in this way the transpiration is or transpiration pull is created is correct. If instead of transpiring twig, if a porous dry pot filled with water is used, the same results are got. Thus, the cohesion, tension or transpiration pull theory best explains the ascent of sap as it stands today, but still this theory is also not completely accepted. All the objections that are raised against the transpiration pull theory has overruled, but today or till that theory is not completely accepted by the scientists. Next topic here we are going to discuss is transpiration in plant. What is transpiration? Water absorbed by root ultimately reaches the leaf. So you know that the water absorbed by the root reaches the leaf, and that water that are present in the leaf get released in the atmosphere in the form of vapor. In the atmosphere the water is released in the form of vapor. Only a small fraction of water, less than 5%, is utilized in plants for development and metabolic processes. Very small amount of water that are absorbed by root is used by plant. Only 5% of water is used, and 95% of water is vaporized in the atmosphere. The loss of excess water in the form of vapor various aerial parts through various aerial parts of the plant is called transpiration. What is transpiration? That is the definition of transpiration. What is the definition of transpiration? The excess loss of water through various parts of the plant in the form of vapor is known as transpiration. Transpiration is a kind of evaporation but differs by the involvement of biological system. Transpiration is nothing but the evaporation of water, but here not a physical evaporation is carried out. So through the biological system, that evaporation is carried out, and in this way the evaporation is different than the physical evaporation. The amount of water was transpired is outstanding. It outstanding. The water may move through the xylem at a rate as fast as 75 centimeter per minute. That is, vast quantity of water is lost because of that transpiration. Different types of transpiration that are found in the plant. In the definition, we seen that the excess loss of water is carried out by the different plant parts, that according to the parts that are used in the transpiration, the types of transpiration is described. Three types of transpiration. First is stomatal transpiration. What is stomata? Stomata is the microscopic structure that are present in high number on the lower epidermis of the leaves. Microscopic structures that are present in the lower side of the epidermis or lower side of the leaf epidermis. This is the most dominant form of transpiration and being responsible for most of water loss. Near about 98% of loss of water is carried out through the stomatal transpiration. Next type of transpiration is lenticellular transpiration in the stems of the body of the plant or on the stem of plants or the trees. The epidermis is replaced by periderm. In some parts of the stem of the tree or plant, the epidermis is replaced by periderm because of secondary growth. Because of secondary growth, the epidermis is replaced by the periderm, and in order to provide gaseous exchange between the living cells and outer atmosphere, some pores which looks like a lens-shaped, and that is known as lenticels. On the epidermis, lens-shaped cells that are found or pores are found, that is known as lenticels, and loss of water from lenticels is very insignificant. Very small amount of water is loss through the lenticel or through lenticellular transpiration, that is 0.01% of water, total water that are lost is carried out through that type of transpiration. And next or other type is the cuticular transpiration. In the cuticle is the waxy or resinous layer of the cutin. Cuticle is the waxy or resinous layer of cutin, a fatty substance. Cutin is the fatty substance covering the epidermis of the leaves and other plant parts. Loss of water through cuticle is relatively small. Very less amount of water is lost through cuticle, and it is only 5 to 10% of the total transpiration. The thickness of cuticle increases in xerophytes, and transpiration is very much reduced or totally absent. Cuticle is the protective covering. That cuticle block the transpiration or loss of water. Instead of blocking of water, some amount of water is lost through cuticle. That is a cuticular transpiration. 5 to 10% of loss of water is carried out through that cuticular transpiration, because the surface area, total surface area that is more, so 5 to 10% of loss of water is carried out through cuticular transpiration. Now here we see the structure of stomata. Major amount of water that is evaporated through the stomatal transpiration. And now you see detail in the structure of stomata. The epidermis of the leaves and green stem, epidermis of the leaves and green stems contain many small pores called stomata. So you know the definition of the stomata, or what is stomata? A very small pores that are found in the lower epidermis of the leaves and the green parts of the stem, that is known as stomata. The length and width of the stomata is about 10 to 40 angstrom, a micron, and 3 to 10 micron respectively. The length of the stomata is 10 to 40 micron and the width of the stomata is 3 to 10 micron. Mature leaves contains 50 to 500 stomatas. Mature leaf contains 50 to 500 stomata per mm². You understand that? 50 to 500 stomata are present in mature leaf per millimeter square. Stomata are made up of two guard cells. Two guard cells are present in the stomata. Special semilunar or kidney-shaped living epidermal cells in the epidermis. Guard cells are attached to surrounding epidermal cells known as subsidiary cells. Stomata is made up of from guard cells. That guard cells are kidney shaped. That guard cells attached to the surrounding epidermal cells known as subsidiary cells or accessory cells. The guard cells are joined together at each end, but they are free to separate to form a pore between them. The guard cells are joined, but they are separate to form a pore, that is the opening of stomata. The inner wall of the guard cell is thicker than the outer wall. The inner wall of the guard cell is thicker than the outer wall. See in the figure, the stomata opens to the interior into a cavity. Stomata is open interiorly in the cavity that is known as substomatal cavity, which remains connected with the intercellular spaces. Mechanism of stomatal movement. The movement of stomata or stomatal movement is regulated by change of turgor pressure in the guard cells. Change in the turgor pressure in the guard cell regulate the movement of stomata. When water enters into the guard cell swells up and the turgor pressure is increased, and because of that the wall of the guard cell is stretched, and that stretching result in the opening of stomata. How the stomata are opened? In the guard cell the turgor pressure is increased. Why the turgor pressure is increased? Because more amount of water is gathered in the guard cell. When the turgor pressure increased, and because of that the turgor pressure is created at the wall pressure, and because of that wall pressure the guard cell is stretched out, and because of that stomata are open. This is due to concave non-elastic nature of inner wall pulled away from each other and stretching of the convex elastic natural outer wall of the guard cell. Because of stretching of the guard cell, the stomata is open. Not only the stretching is responsible for the opening of stomata, but the specific shape, kidney shaped shape of the guard cell is responsible for the opening of stomata. What happened? The inner wall of the guard cell is pulled away, and because of that convex structure of outer wall of the guard cell, the stomata is open. Different theories have been put forth regarding the opening and closing of stomata. The important theories of stomatal movements. Now we discuss in next video lecture. That is end of the lecture here. Before going to conclude, subscribe the botany department channel, share it that channel into your friends group, and like the channel. Thank you.